Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how you can easily upgrade your laptop for a lot better performance just by swapping out the hard drive to an SSD. Now what I'm doing here is double the work because I've got a new laptop. This is the old one over here, and it was okay. It was nothing really special. It's a nice unit, but it's an AMD. It just doesn't have the power of a top-end Intel system. That's all there is to it. When I originally got it, it was just for studio work, and that's what I primarily use it for. It stays in the studio, and I shoot tethered with Lightroom, and it brings up my photos, and just basic stuff like that. A little bit of surfing, nothing really intense. Well, here's the problem. When I started doing the Seal live shows, oh my God, is the software intensive. And I would run this thing bumping up against 100 CPU regularly and just stripping it down. I mean, as streamlined as it could possibly be, but there's no more headroom, and I want to improve the Seal live shows by going to 1080p at least. Right now I have to be at 720 because that's all it can handle. So I got a new laptop. This thing is killer. Top of the line i5, 8 gigs of RAM, super sleek, fast, a lot better screen, matte display, higher res, just all. This is basically a MacBook Air in PC form. Day and night comparison. I mean, it should be just on paper more than twice as fast, and it allowed me to run the software that I need to do. Problem is, I've already upgraded this with a killer Samsung SSD, and it has great performance. I really don't feel like spending another $200 to buy one for this computer. That was the only negative thing about this unit, by the way. It just came with a nice fast hard drive, but even a fast hard drive is pitifully slow compared to an SSD. So I want to take the SSD out of that one and put it in here. But I still want to use this one, and I still have the old hard drive. So what I'm going to do is clone the SSD in there, because the old hard drive, it didn't even have Windows 10 on it. It was a while ago. So I don't want to spend hours of re-upgrading and re-updating by just putting the hard drive in there and letting it go. I want to just copy what I got here, keep going on the hard drive. That'll be a backup. I want to take that SSD, clone this system onto the SSD, and go from there. And this one's obviously a fresh load, so it should be good to go. And then I'll be left with this hard drive just sitting out in the wind as backup, like I have this one over here. When I get my next laptop, I'll probably reuse the SSD again. So the first step is to pop your battery out, make sure it's absolutely unpowered. This particular unit just had one screw to remove, and the access cover came off, and you can see everything in here. I've got the RAM fully upgraded. This is the Wi-Fi card, and here's the storage. Here is the original hard drive that's going to be going back in with the current image on it after I clone the drive. And what I put in here was an M.2 drive in a mobile SATA adapter. And that way, in the future, I'm sure laptops are going to stop using this M-SATA standard and eventually go to M.2. I'll be able to use this. I could even pop this in my current desktop because it has another M.2 slot if I really wanted to. But all we're going to do is take this guy out. We're left with a standard SATA interface, just like any SATA drive in a desktop. So now what we're going to do is connect these two drives into my desktop, and we're going to use imaging software to clone it. Clone the SSD onto the old hard drive. We do that, in this case, with two temporary SATA cables and temporary SATA power. That's just going to add on to my system. Now, your setup may need a different solution. Maybe you unplug a couple drives, or maybe you only have one particular slot that you can use for an additional drive, so you might have to temporarily move an image onto one of your hard drives and then connect your target drive. However you have to do it. You could also use an external bay. That's a lot slower though, because they go through USB. I'm doing it this way because this will take seconds to go over the SATA interface. The software I recommend, and one of the very best options for doing this, is Macrium Reflect. Luckily, the free version has a lot of really good tools, and cloning a disk complete with system partitions is one of them. So this makes it very easy. What we're looking at is a breakdown of the disks in my current system, my desktop. We've got up at the top my 10 terabyte RAID array, The disk 2 is the hard drive that we are going to be cloning to, the old hard drive, which is now blank. I wiped the partitions. 3 is the SSD that we are going to be pulling from. So this is the current laptop drive. And 4 is my boot SSD in the desktop. So we're going to be going from 3 to 2. So we select 3, clone this disk, select the destination to be 2, and let's go into advanced options. I do not need to verify, that just takes more time. And I'll leave this enable SSD trim enabled, checked, even though we're not going to the SSD. It's currently on, I just don't want to mess with it. And that should do it. Click next. We don't want to schedule, I want to do it right now. And it's just verifying what we're going to be doing. It's going to copy over everything on the disk. Run it now. I don't need to save it as a log. And there it goes. All right, I'll be back when it finishes. Okay, we're done, and this is why this method of plugging directly into a desktop is the way to go. Look at that, 8 minutes, 48 seconds. Now I realize a lot of people aren't going to have access to a desktop or be able to plug in both drives. If you even have to use an external USB docking bay, that's okay, that will get it done, but don't expect these kind of results, expect hours, especially if you have a lot of data. I have the bare minimum on here, it's 47 some odd gigs. Obviously, most people are going to have a lot more than that, so bear that in mind. Okay, now I'm going to shut the system down, and we will put this hard drive, which is now a clone of its SSD, in the old laptop. But before I do that, I almost forgot, because this is a direct copy and the hard drive is bigger than the SSD, we're left with this unallocated space over here. So what I'm going to do is fire up AOMI Partition Assistant, and of course there are many different apps. You could even use the built-in Disk Manager Windows to do this. And we are going to merge the unallocated space with the newly created partition. And we want to merge it with that one. And apply the change. This should go really quick. And there we go. And we could have done that after it hit the new laptop also, it doesn't matter. Now we should be able to unplug the old hard drive, well, shut down, unplug the old hard drive, put it back in the old computer, and it should be the same as this SSD, just now slower. There's the old hard drive back in the old computer, just as it came from the factory. And success. We'll let it boot up here. Now the first time, it's probably going to take a little while because it's got a lot of crap to clean up. Even though it's a clone drive, the system knows things have shifted. And there we go. All right, that one is done. That's back to the way it came with the original hard drive. This is now my backup laptop. I got too many laptops. Okay, on to the new one. Got the access panel off. Oh, it's good to see that I can put in another 8 gigs of RAM if I ever want to and up it to 16. And here we have the hard drive that's now going to come out. And we're going to image this one onto the SSD. That way I don't have to worry about contacting Microsoft and updating the key because the motherboard's changed, all that kind of stuff. This is already a fresh boot of Windows 10. I just have to remove a little bloatware. It's a lot less time just to clone this onto the fresh SSD for the speed and go from there. And then this will be my new current laptop. So here in AOMI Partition Assistant, and like I said before, you can use whatever partition manager you want to use. We are going to shrink this main partition on the hard drive. And we're going to do that by resizing the partition and shrinking it down well below the size of the SSD. Don't worry about making it exact. We will fix that after it's done actually cloning. So we'll make it 183, still plenty of space. The rest will be unallocated and not moved over. And that's what we want to do. So we apply that change. Go ahead and proceed. This should be really quick. And there we go. Now our hard drive partition is resized smaller. And what we have here is, it's called unallocated space. Think of a disk drive, the whole thing, as a new subdivision. You have the plot of land, the huge acreage that all the houses are going to be built on. That's your disk itself, the physical drive. Unallocated space is, say, half the neighborhood hasn't been built yet. There aren't any roads, no foundations have been laid, there's nothing there. There's blank land there, but nothing can be done with it. Can't drive a car on it. There's no house, nothing. That's unallocated. To the computer, the unallocated doesn't exist because you can't do anything with it. The partitions themselves, you've got used space and free space. Think of this as, these are all the houses that are built, but only some of the garages have cars in them. So the empty space on a partition are just empty garages. The filled up space have cars in them. So there are three different things: filled garages, empty garages, and land where a garage doesn't even exist. And that's what we want. Now I've got the new hard drive and the new old new SSD plugged in. And the first thing I'm going to do is wipe the SSD that I'm going to be transferring to. Believe me, it just makes things easier. So I'm going to delete all partitions. Apply. Should be really quick. Okay. Now we're going to select the hard drive, clone this disk, and we're going to select the SSD. If you see a recovery partition, you may have to uncheck this because sometimes they will not copy over. It just will give a size warning every time. I'm going to uncheck verify for speed. Don't need to schedule it. Want it to run right now. Don't need a log. And go. And there we go. Clone is complete to the SSD. We are done with MacRam Reflect. Now back in AOME Partition Assistant, or the app of your choice, we're going to look at the SSD and we're just going to get back all the extra unallocated space. We're going to merge the partitions. Apply. Should be really quick. And done. Okay. Now I'm going to power down for the last time, pop the SSD in the new laptop, and we should be good to go. And there we go. The new SSD in the new laptop. And there we go. New system all set up in the studio. We're ready to go. Hope this helps somebody. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.